1974.
Yeah!
One gloriously warm fall afternoon, I found myself strolling through a park near the university on my way home from junior high. I was taking my time sipping a Slurpee and making sure the sunshine hit my face, which was supposed to help with my acne. The park was actually a few blocks out of my way, but I was in no hurry. My parents' house offended me with its boring, beigey squareness, its failure to possess even one secret room or hidden staircase. A dull, comfortable, respectable house like ours could never be haunted or contain a hidden portal to an alternate dimension. Nor was I eager to see my parents. They weren't quite as square as the house, but they kept their eccentricities well concealed, and I bitterly resented them for it. The park, on the other hand, fascinated me. Everywhere, college-age kids read, debated, flew kites, made out, napped, meditated, and grooved to tiny transistor radios. In an effort to seem part of things, I untucked my dress shirt, mussed my medium-long, but oh, how I wished it were longer hair, and assumed a rambling gait with long, exaggerated strides. Trucking, it was called. Most of the park consisted of scrubby grass, struggling to cover dry, hard earth. But at the east end, there grew a thicket of slightly stunted trees. I was just entering this tiny woodland area when a voice called out, "Hey, Guy." Though at 14 I was more kid than Guy, I took a chance this was directed at me and turned. I saw a half-dozen hippies sprawled around a beach towel, soaking up the sun. "Over here," called the voice, which I now saw came from a razor-thin man sitting cross-legged in the shade of a pine tree, a few yards away from the others. He was somewhere in his early 20s and wore nothing but a pair of faded, patched, and elaborately embroidered blue jeans. His face was clean-shaven, but his long, curly chestnut brown hair hung halfway down his back, filling me with awe and envy. "Hi," I said, walking over to him. The man patted the earth next to him as if it were a comfy sofa. "Come on and sit down, I'm Rick." I felt myself staring, but couldn't stop. Rick's features were perfectly formed and perfectly symmetrical, like the male lead in a sappy romance movie. "My name's Leonard," I said, still standing. Rick said, "Don't be scared, Leonard." And suddenly I wasn't. The serenity in his warm brown eyes made it clear that Rick was a mellow guy. I sat. "So, what brings you to the park today?" Rick asked. My scalp tingled pins and needles, which it did when I was shy or embarrassed in a happy way. "Just walking home. How about you?" "I'm witnessing," said Rick. "Witnessing what?" I asked. "Witnessing is when you share with others the truth that you've witnessed." I was intrigued. Recently, I'd fallen prey to a host of rapid mood swings and intense but mysterious longings. Since nobody had mentioned anything to me about pubescent hormones, I interpreted this as evidence of a deep spiritual hunger. This conclusion wasn't as far-fetched as it sounds. I lived in a town where bands of Hare Krishnas serenaded the streets, and the telephone poles were thick with posters advertising classes in Buddhist meditation, Sufism, and astral projection. Alternative spirituality and New Age metaphysics were in the air. "So, what truth did you witness?" I asked. "The truth of Jesus," said Rick with a smile. "Ah, Jesus freak, I was disappointed. Christianity, depressingly square, more hick than hippie. I also objected to the idea of hell on theological grounds. It sounded way harsh for anyone short of Hitler. "I'm a Taoist," I said proudly. I spent hours scouring the shelves of the public library, searching for a religion that was suitably exotic but didn't require any huge leaps of faith or complicated rituals. Taoism fit the bill, and I also appreciated the brevity of its holy text, the Tao Te Ching, only 86 pages. "Taoist, that's cool," said Rick, still smiling. "What's that all about?" The words that should have been in my head waiting for this question had wandered off. Finally, I managed to stammer. "Taoism is like going with the flow and, not getting hung up." "Ah," said Rick. "Sounds cool, but you can find peace with Jesus too if you want." I was surprised. "Isn't that against your religion, being in another religion?" "Jesus is God and God is love. That's my religion. Nothing less, nothing more." Rick's self-confidence was mesmerizing. Well, what about heaven and hell and the commandments and all that, I asked. Rick waved his hand dismissively. I leave those to the professors of theology. So I can be a Taoist and a Christian at the same time if I want? Sure, said Rick, why not? Rick smiled again. I liked the way he smiled all the time. It seemed real, not like the forced cheerfulness of people on TV or the hollow-eyed Moonies who went door to door asking people to dinner, an invitation I always declined in light of their reputation for kidnapping and brainwashing their There was a pause, then Rick gestured towards the hippies around the beach towel. Me and my family are just passing through on our way to Oregon. We're going to start an organic farm, build it ourselves from scratch. That's cool, I said, casually hiding my 7-Eleven cup with its offensively plastic straw behind my back. Yeah, said Rick half-heartedly. Actually, it sounds like a lot of work. He laughed and lay down on his back. The amber gold skin of his arms and chest were lightly fuzzed with dark, curly hair, reminding me of an animal, though I couldn't think what kind. You could build windmills for energy, I suggested, sort of wishing Rick would ask me to come along. Sure, I guess. The idea is we'll lead simple lives without all the hassles of the city. We'll raise our own food so we don't have to get jobs, and we can make our lives spiritually whole, like monks, except we can screw around. Flattered that Rick took me for someone adult enough to talk with about screwing around. So how long are you staying in town, I asked. Not long, said Rick. He sat up and stared into my eyes with his own hypnotic round orbs. Leonard, do you know how to love? Well, what do you mean, I asked? I love my parents. Sure, that's easy, but can you love strangers? Can you love your enemies? Could you love Richard Nixon? I never thought about it, I admitted. That's the kingdom of heaven, said Rick, when you can love everyone and everything. Heaven's not someplace in the clouds, it's in here. He patted his chest over his heart. Do you love everybody, I asked. I try, said Rick, sounding almost sad. I'm getting better. There was a long pause that made me so nervous I began to blather. Did you ever think that Jesus might have been an ancient astronaut? From outer space, like the ones who built the pyramids in Stonehenge and left that 10,000-year-old battery in the Mesopotamian ruins? Rick let out a tiny chuckle. Could be. He turned solemn again. Try saying it, Leonard. Try saying, I love everyone. I love everyone, I said. Even I could hear I didn't mean it. Let's start smaller, suggested Rick. Repeat after me. I love you. This took me off guard. My scalp tingled fiercely. Time stopped and the universe contracted so that Rick and I were disembodied souls, alone in a swirling, purple, glittery cosmos of togetherness. I stood frozen for a moment, trying to re-inhabit my body, which had become paralyzed by Rick's eyes. When at last I could speak, I could hear a vast and unmistakable improvement in my sincerity as I repeated the holy words, I love you. Rick laughed. Getting better. Love doesn't always come easy. Sometimes you have to work at it. As he spoke, one of Rick's family, a blonde girl with a cold grin on her pretty face, walked over and plopped down next to us. The girl nodded in my direction. With a hint of sarcasm, she asked, Who is this little angel? This is Leonard, said Rick. We've been rapping about love. I'll bet you have, the girl sneered. My throat constricted, which it did when I was shy or embarrassed in an unhappy way. I managed to croak out a weak little hi. Pleased to meet you, said the girl, not sounding pleased at all. I'm Beth. She put her arm around me with Rick and leaned into him. Feeling an overwhelming desire to flee, I stood up and stammered, I really should go. Peace, said Rick and Beth almost at the same time. Peace, I said, though I'd never said peace instead of goodbye before.